All right, at this point, everybody, we have our protagonist profile and antagonist profile from yesterday, and we have our character elaboration chart from before the break. And we're going to use all three of these charts to create a story that focuses on our main character, and that's our character elaboration. It looks like this when it's blank in your chart or in your journal. The directions say use the chart on the previous pages to create a deeply descriptive one page written piece about your main character. Include everything from the chart on page 11, but also give their backstory and their future hopes and dreams. You can use the character elaboration chart and these profiles. There's lots of great details in all of this stuff. And what you're going to do on this page is you're going to create a story right in here that basically tells us all about your main character. It's not a descriptive paragraph, it can actually be a story with a plot. Or if you're feeling stuck, no problem. Write a descriptive paragraph based on all the other stuff that you've done. This could end up turning into some pages from your for your fan fiction. But I'm going to share with you mine. My character elaboration that I wrote is about James. And James is my main character. He's a character that I've totally made up and added to Flowers for Algernon Part 2, which is what I'm making here. So, yesterday I showed you how I did a protagonist profile on James and my antagonist profile also on James because he's his own worst enemy. I did do my character elaboration before the break on Charlie Gordon, who's also a major character in this story. So that's no problem. You know, the more you change characters, the better it shows that you're thinking and you're trying to change and develop this story. So my character elaboration is about James sitting first of all in a open session at a psychiatric hospital. And without going into too much detail, this is an example of how James's personality. James sat in the circle with his arms folded in a reclined position. The stiff chair made it hard to lean back, but if he had to sit in the chair with the group, he was intent upon leaning as far back as he could. He looked down at the grass, up at the clouds, and tried his hardest not to listen to Maddie's sobbing. Maddie finally finished up, and then it was his turn. The group sat in silence for a full 5 minutes before the intern decided to move on to the next person. The intern running the session complimented everyone on their progress and singled out James for, quote, not throwing a tantrum this time. James bit his lip. I'm not a child. It's not a tantrum. It's just people being jerks and pissing me off with their bullcrap. It's what he wanted to say, but he learned that these kinds of things only get him put on more restrictions. Outbursts, tantrums, meltdowns, the doctor's way of reducing their patients to children, James learned. He also did find it funny that even his thoughts no longer used curses or foul language, because that meant fewer privileges. Bullcrap is not a kind of word he would have used 2 months ago. James stood up and walked into the main hall of Kingsborough Psychiatric Center. His new room should be ready by now. He was told at breakfast that he would be moved again because his roommate found his attitude disturbing again, and he knew it was probably just another excuse to rummage through his few personal items while they moved him, looking for contraband again. Room 216, the orderly at the desk said. Second floor, where the windows don't open. Your new roommate is Charlie Gordon. Be nice to him. James was surprised at the volume of her single instruction. This is a story about James. This could also be the introduction of my story. It gives us a really good idea of James's attitude. He gets annoyed by people. He doesn't want to share. He's sitting in a circle and he doesn't want to share his feelings. He's next to this person named Maddie. And honestly, I did not choose Maddie for any reason other than I just used that name. And it was totally because he didn't want to hear people crying and talking about their feelings. That's not James. He hasn't learned to open up to people yet. So that's where this whole scene comes out of. So we get a good idea of how James's attitude and his character is. And at the same time, we have the beginning of our story, kind of the momentum is building. So that's what I'm going to ask you to try to do today with your character elaboration. Good luck and happy writing, everybody.